Hey you beautiful people, welcome back. This is another spell description or a spell lesson. I wanted to talk about Aid, which is the next one just down our list of spells that we're looking at. And the thing about Aid that I find is quite interesting is that it's usually for your holy casters, so your cleric or your paladin, but also the artificer can use it, which I find is kind of interesting. So let's get a little bit into what Aid does. And so Aid is a second level abjuration spell. So what abjuration usually follows is those protective spells like healing, like a defensive ward or something along the lines that can boost somebody's shielding or their ability to move out of the way of danger. There are a couple of other ones that are mostly following your support classes, so like your bard, cleric, paladin, and artificer. Now, I always forget artificer since it's not new, but when I began to play it, I didn't have very many artificers, or at least very many artificers that were fun to be around. I'll get into that on a different day. And so with this one, it's casted out with one action, so about 6 seconds, and it's got a range of 30 feet. Pretty good, pretty good. 30 feet's not too bad. Its components are verbal, somatic, and material. It's a tiny strip of white cloth. So that's something you could have wrapped around your hand when you're about to do your somatic movements and verbally speak, or maybe you would lift it up to your face and speak through them, and that would be it. But this is a very similar situation where you would not be able to be fully restrained or not be able to speak in order to cast this spell, though there are some exceptions. For example, if you are playing a Kenku, you can't really speak super well, so I bet your dungeon master would be able to flare it up a little bit for you, and working with them about that. The duration is for 8 hours, so that lasts for an entire 8 hours. As soon as you cast it, it activates for 8 hours, so right after a short or long rest, you can just drop that, or even right before a short rest, you still have 4 hours of protection after that short rest ended, which would be very nice. So, the description is as follows. Your spell restores your allies with toughness and resolve. Choose up to 3 creatures within range. Each target's hit point maximum and current hit points is increased by 5 for the duration. That's pretty dope. I'm just going to put that out there. And at higher levels, you can cast a spell of a third level spell slot or higher, and its target's hit points increased by additional 5 for each slot above level 2. So if it was on 3rd level, it would be 10, 4th, 15th, etc., etc. And that is incredibly useful, I like to think. Because if you have, say, 2 people that are down within 30 feet of you, they're unconscious, you need to get them back up and fighting, you can drop Aid, which only requires 1 action, and then boom, boom, they're back up at 5. 5 is not that much, but at least they're back up and fighting. What's also really nice is that it increases the hit point maximum, and the way that hit point maximum and hit points works is maximum, of course, your max health. Now, it doesn't permanently increase, that increases it for that 8-hour junction, but giving them that extra 5 health, or even, again, 3rd, 4th, or 5th level, all the way up to 9th for some of them, you would have an intense amount of backup health. And we all know we've come into situations where it is dependent upon that one health point. And so having that little extra 5 buffer, it's not great, but again, for something just to kind of drop right after a short rest, if you're, say, in a dungeon or just coming off of a chase and you feel like the enemies are still right behind you but you gotta keep moving, dropping Aid is something that can give you guys that little boost. It's faster than, say, Prayer of Healing, which can heal you for a lot more, and it's a fairly low-level spell slot just to drop to help some people out. So I feel like Aid is quite useful. Now, those that can use Aid are your paladins, your clerics, and your artificer. What I found very interesting is that artificer is also included in that, and maybe that is for game mechanic balancing, allowing another half caster to cast something like Aid to do bonus health, and I feel like that's pretty good and kind of interesting, but at the same time, the way that this kind of was described with a tiny strip of white cloth, it sounded like a very holy thing. So I can just imagine an artificer kind of all dirty up and greased up with whatever that they were currently making, either their steel defenders, their gigantic, hulking, monstrous creature that they have created to protect them or mess some stuff up, or even something, one that has an eldritch cannon. So they wheel around a cannon, they just pull out this very clean white cloth cast aid, which I thought would be incredibly contrast to a lot of things, but I feel like that could also bring out a lot of interesting character description or character information about them, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think aid is quite useful. It's kind of nice. It adds a bit more, and this might be something that would be fairly useful for a dungeon master to use if you wanted to have a monster encounter with death saving throws, which is something else that is a little more on the unique side if you really want to drive home a difficult situation to your party. If you have your monsters go down but not dead, so they just fall unconscious, and you have one of the other monsters or evil humanoids be a caster of some sort, being able to drop aid, lift up 2 people, that's very nice, and also a very evil thing to do to your party, and so I encourage it extensively. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will be seeing you next time. Bye!